In this episode, we're talking to the founder of Pinpoint Your Purpose, John Jackson, about the common misconceptions people have around purpose that are holding them back. We'll also be exploring how developing a relationship with your purpose provides an opportunity to live a truly meaningful and fulfilling life. If you want to stand confidently in the knowing of who you are called to be in any situation, this episode is for you. Welcome to Follow the Calling.
Be confident in knowing how to get the results you want.
Be secure in knowing who you really are.
Be inspired by the possibility of the difference you're here to make.
Follow your calling and experience true fulfillment.
So everybody, welcome to another episode of Follow the Calling. And today's episode is titled Purpose is Not What You Do. And as you say, we have our guest with us today, John Jackson. Now, just to sort of intro this episode a little bit, most people spend a lifetime searching for a way to fulfill their life's purpose. And sadly, none of them really ever find it. The suffering this brings is immense because without purpose, life can seem like an endless stream of random, meaningless events that just don't make sense and certainly aren't fair. Now, this being the case, the world can occur as a scary, threatening place, and it can be hard to know what to do just to get by, let alone follow our heart's calling and create the life we really want. But today we're going to have a conversation that will reveal where most people are going wrong in their search to bring purpose and meaning to their life, and exactly what we can do to put ourselves back on the right path.
So we have the great privilege and honor of being joined by our friend and mentor, John Jackson, known by his friends as JJ. So that's probably how we'll refer to him in this episode. JJ, again, is the founder of Pinpoint Your Purpose, which is an organization that has already transformed the lives of thousands of people around the world. JJ has made it his life's work to unravel the mysteries of purpose and is a living example of implementing that in his own life while helping others to do the same. So JJ, thank you so much for being with us here today, and welcome.
It is my honor, Tiffany. Thank you so very much. Andy, thank you. How are you guys?
We're great.
Very good. Thank you, JJ. Great to see you, man, as always.
So we're just going to jump right in, JJ, and with the first question here, which is, what do you feel is the biggest problem people are facing in not knowing their purpose, and why do you think that is?
Great question. In my years of being in this space, and maybe guys, can I take just kind of a step back, maybe, and just briefly explain
Sure.
how we even got to this point in the first place? Purpose. Purpose is one of those really huge abstract ideas or ideals or concept or word. Mm-hmm. And when I first, there's a couple of things that triggered this for me over 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago. One was reading a book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. By the way, it's a highly regarded read. What can give my life meaning. Also read a lot of material, Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, and it began to help me begin to ask some big questions around this topic. But Viktor Frankl does an amazing job of articulating the power of purpose based on my research and my study. The biggest misconception, Tiffany, that I've discovered is, first and foremost, when I first started this journey, I really didn't understand what purpose meant in the first place. And because I thought I understood what that word, what that term meant, but once I really began to study it, I came to realize purpose is both a noun and a verb. And by the way, I'm going to hit a brief timeout. Shame on me for not sharing with you what my purpose in life is. My purpose in life is to serve others with love and respect so that they may flourish. Now, if it's okay with you guys, I'll probably refer back to that statement because that's really my ground zero. That's where I start. That's who I know I'm called to be at any given moment, no matter what the circumstances, no matter who I'm speaking with.
Yes.
So it is my hope and desire that in one way, shape, or form, as a byproduct of this mastermind that we get to have here today, is that for you all to flourish in a way that you've never flourished before. How that looks, what that looks like, quite frankly, I don't know what that. But ultimately, to know what's the purpose, what's the cause of the belief that inspires me to do everything that I do, that's where it starts with me, is to serve others with love and respect so that they may flourish. That's where it starts.
Yeah.
And I believe purpose identifies the uniquely authentic gift or the contribution that you and only you, that me and only me, that Tiffany and only Tiffany, and Anthony and only Anthony can offer the world. And it also identifies the impact that unique gift has on the world. So that for me is to serve others with love and respect so that they may flourish. I know that Tiffany, you've pinpointed yours. I know Andy, you pinpointed yours.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, what does purpose really mean? And if you were to even just do a quick little study on the dictionary app on your phone, you're going to find out that it's both a noun and a verb. As a noun, it's the reason for which something is done or created or for which something exists. So if we bring it back to ourselves as individuals, I've identified the reason for my existence. Well, that's a big question, almost overwhelming, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
As a verb, is it my intention or objective? Yes, I made a conscious decision years ago for that to be my intention in life. Doesn't matter how I'm doing it, doesn't matter what I'm doing, but that's my intention. Do you know the reason for your creation? The reason for your existence? These are all great questions. I think the quality of the answers that we receive are determined by the quality of questions we ask, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you may be saying, that sounds great, JJ, but what's the ultimate goal with all this and why we do that? And I don't know that now's the time to do it, but ultimately, and I've worked with entrepreneurs and business owners for years, and the whole focus is success. Whole focus is, I want to do whatever I can to be successful. I want to do whatever I can to be successful. And I came to understand sometimes that's sustainable, sometimes that's not.
Mm-hmm.
The ultimate goal is not success. The ultimate goal is fulfillment. Mm-hmm. Why? Why would I feel that way? Because in my research over the years, fulfillment is seen, at least in my opinion or my beliefs, as the most superior of all values and all goals. And I guess to come full circle, how did this really repeat your question again? I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's fine. So what do you feel is the biggest problem people are facing in not knowing their purpose? And why do you think that is?
I guess the quick answer would be to that the biggest obstacle that I discovered, and I saw it myself first, is I didn't understand what purpose meant in the first place.
Yeah.
That would be the quick answer.
Mm-hmm.
And part of answering that question was to begin to understand the definition and then really look within to go, what is this really for me? Does that make sense, Tiffany?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think step one is helping us to begin to understand, and I value simplicity, by the way. And this is a big topic, isn't it? Purpose.
Yeah, very.
And one of the fulfilling things for me is helping people begin to, they see it as this fog or this mist. What's my purpose in life, right? Mm-hmm. It's this fog or this mist that's in our life, and sometimes it's there, and sometimes it's not there, and sometimes you can see it and feel it, and sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
It's not some mystery. It can be something that is tangible, it's concrete, it's clearly stated, and you know why it is. That makes sense. Yeah. So that really gives me a spark of inspiration when I can help people find that with that. Oh wow, I know why I'm here. I know my calling, and I know why it is. That's a pretty cool process.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, JJ. It was what you were just describing there about how purpose does occur as this kind of abstract subject that we just can't pin down. I think that really is a lot of what's standing in people's way, as you say. Now, nowadays there's a lot of talk about purpose out there, right?
Yeah.
And the fact does still remain that a lot of people are still very confused by the fact that this is so abstract and intangible. But you see, it seems to me that a lot of influential people out there are still talking about it in a way that they're not even really sure what purpose is. And obviously that doesn't help people who are looking for their purpose and then looking to these people for guidance on that. Now, I know, in knowing you for several years, that you've done extensive research into purpose across many years. In fact, you've actually made this your life's work. And what I'd like to ask you is, what do you see as the biggest misconceptions people have about what purpose even is? And then also, where are they going wrong in pursuing it?
Whew. I could go abstract very quickly, but that's not why we're here. We're here to make things simple.
We're here to
so the best way to do. Yeah. So the best way would be to, and as over the years I've had a chance to speak and share on this topic. A lot of times I'll get in front of a crowd and a lot of these people are family people, right? And I have kids, and I know what my kids want. And I'll just candidly ask, how many people in this audience have kids? People raise their hand. And how many of you believe that your purpose and your calling in your life is to raise your kids? My kids are my purpose in life, right? Now, in that, there's a side of me that's like, yeah, man, I got kids too, and I know how I feel about my children, and
sure,
and then I take a chance, and I look directly at them. I'm like, that's not, your kids are not your purpose in life. Nobody loves their kids any more than I do, right? But my kids are not my purpose in life. And it'll cause people to go, how don't you question my love and my calling to raise kids? I'm like, no. And what would happen, and this is not a pleasant thought, right? And I've actually looked within and had this conversation with me, because I know my purpose in life, which is to serve others with love and respect. So now they're in a position to flourish maybe that they never had before. And for me, that's what my calling is. What if by chance, heaven forbid, something tragic happens and I lose my children? I have friends in my life who've actually gone through this.
Yeah.
Does that mean my purpose in life is over? And I know the answer to that is definitively no. We're still here. I believe we're all called to fulfill some unique purpose in life. And they're all different, by the way. The biggest misconception, to answer your question directly, Andy, would be is Simon Sinek has this concept called the golden circle, right? In the middle of it is why, and then how, and then what. This thing in the middle never changes for me.
Yeah.
Never changes for me.
The why.
And the biggest misconception, I guess, this will kind of go a little layer, at least one layer deeper, Andy, in that is the misconception is people look at their hows and their whats as their purpose. And that's not the case.
Yeah.
And there was an enormous transformation that happened in me when I began to understand those are circumstances. In this season of my life, I'm a parent, right? And I have two kids, and my second one is getting ready to graduate, and I'm getting ready to go into a new season of the dynamic of my relationship with my son, both my kids. I'll always stand for my kids and their greatness. And what can I do to serve them in such a way with love and respect so they're in a position to flourish like they've never flourished before? But then I look at my relationship with you two over the years. It's grown, it's evolved, hasn't it?
Certainly.
Right? But at the core, I'm still called to serve each of you. Have a servant's heart and treat you with the love and respect that you deserve, to ensure that I'm maybe just a small part of helping you flourish in a way that you've never flourished before.
Mm-hmm.
What's the next season of our relationship going to be? What's the next season of my relationship with my wife, with my kids, with my neighbors?
Mm-hmm.
And once we can begin to make that subtle transformation in our mind, Andy, with regard to, oh, wait a second, I've been looking at this all wrong. Who am I first? What is my calling? And then now we get back to the noun and the verb, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's my unique calling in life now? Is it my intention and my response? And I use this, and again, as I shared, I value simplicity. Like we make life complicated, don't we?
Certainly do,
Yes.
yeah.
We can overthink things and analyze things and you all have heard me say this many times, and don't make life so complicated. We've done the work. We know who we are at our natural best. We know our purpose. We know our calling. And then when life comes at us, now that I have that statement, my responsibility in the middle of that is to make sure that my response to that situation in life comes at me is evidence of me. That's the verb. It's my intention.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we'll have time today. Maybe there's share a story or two and how that shows up in our day-to-day life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Love it.
Would you?
Mm.
Yeah, of course.
Is Bob the AC Man story? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be. I feel that would be really relevant and valuable for anyone listening to this. Thank you.
Yeah, and this may take me 2 or 3 or 4 minutes. Over the years, I've tried to make this an efficient story.
Yeah.
But where I've been fortunate enough to work from home for a number of years, we do a lot of things like this on these platforms and virtually. And let me start off with what my purpose in life is. My purpose in life is to serve others with love and respect so that they may flourish. Okay. And I'm just living life every day, just like we all are. And I was in the middle of a webinar, and it was a lengthy webinar. It's a 3 to 4 hour webinar that I did every week. And I have my office here in my home, and my family life is right over there on the other side of that door. And I was in the middle of this presentation. It's a big responsibility. And that day we had scheduled my AC, my air conditioner. I live in South Texas, by the way, in the Texas Hill Country. And
warm.
And air conditioners are vitally important in these parts. And every year we have an air conditioning guy come to service my units. I have 3 units in my house, one for upstairs, downstairs, and another one for a little bedroom area. And doorbell rang, and it was Bob, the AC guy. And I was in the middle of my webinar. So my wife goes and answers the door, lets him in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes on about doing his thing. Everything's working fine. We're just giving him service. And then about 20 minutes after he got here, and I'm in the middle of my webinar, I can't leave. She opens the door and goes, "Hey, this guy doesn't know what he's doing." And I'm in my webinar, just like I'm on right now. And I'm like, I can't do anything. Can't do it. And she's very respectful of me and my work. And so she closes the door. I didn't think anything about it. And about 8 or 10 minutes later, she doesn't just quietly open the door. She bangs the door open. She's like, "Gotta know what he's doing. Something's broken." And I'm in the middle of this, trying to hit mute as fast as I can. But I can't leave my responsibility. I cannot just step up and go handle this thing. Apparently, in the middle of him doing his thing, he broke something. He looked at Lori, and all of a sudden my wife is frustrated. I can't leave. I can't leave.
Yeah.
And she knows I can't leave. She's frustrated that I'm not readily available to go help her. She closes the door. I wrap up my webinar and I get up. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go address this thing. And inside the kitchen, they're both standing there, and apparently everything's fixed now. Everything's working fine. But I've been married to my wife for 30 years, and I know when she's been what we call run through the ringer. Frustrated, but she's made it through. We settle up with Bob. He leaves through the garage. I'm getting ready. My wife and I are getting ready to go pick up our son at school. I have a couple of calls to make before we make that little trip. And I'm in the back on my cell phone, and I'm noticing Bob leave my driveway. Mm-hmm. And I don't expect you to know my home, but you can either back out or you can come all the way down a little basketball area there where my son is, and he's doing this 18-point turn. And that's fine. And I'm watching. All of a sudden, I hear this noise. Bam! The corner of his truck hits my fence, knocks down the cedar shadow box fence that I have around my yard. And he doesn't know that I can see him. Mm-hmm. And I wrap up the call. I'm like, hang on, I got to go. Something happened. So I walk through my garage. I was going to go talk to him. And by the time I walk around to the side of my property, he's gone. He's driven away. And I look over my fence and it's smashed. Mm. Now, in that moment, life came at me, Andy. Mm-hmm. And I'm called to respond to that. Do you believe, Andy, in that moment that I wanted to treat him, Bob, with a servant's heart and love and respect? The answer's no.
Yeah, I can imagine you felt something quite different at the time.
Yeah. No, and in all candor, I wanted to snap his neck.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, being straight up and honest, that's how I think most people would feel if they're honest.
Yeah, you know what? And most people want to react.
Yeah.
That way, don't we? Right? That's a reaction based on all my years of and the culture that we live in, at least that I live in, would have justified my reasoning for being angry, making him wrong. Mm-hmm. So Lori, we're getting ready to go pick up my son. Lori comes around and she sees what happens, and she sees how angry I am. She knows me. And I had about a 9-minute window there. And I'd like to explain what happened in that 9 minutes, because I knew I had to call Bob back. And Lori saw how angry my initial reaction was within. Mm-hmm. And she knows my commitment she knows my commitment to being an example of that, no matter what the circumstances. This is the power of Viktor Frankl's book.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I need to call him. I need to call him right now. I need to call him right now. She goes, don't you do it. Don't you do it. Don't you do it. And I'm processing this in my mind. And in my mind, I'm going, you're called to respond. Make sure you respond through that statement: to serve others with love and respect so that they may flourish. And I didn't know how I was going to do that. In that moment, I did not know how I was going to do that. Mm. And then we hop in the truck, and we're backing out of the driveway or garage to go pick up my son at school. And it hit me. And I grabbed my phone. And she goes, who are you calling? I'm like, I'm calling Bob. She goes, don't you do it? I'm like, no, I got this. Bob answers the phone. Bob, Mr. Jackson here. You were just at my property, look at my units. And I said, before I begin this, Bob, I want you to know something. My purpose in life is to serve others with love and respect so that they may flourish. And I understand that as a byproduct of this conversation, you flourish in a way you've never flourished before. Of course, he's thinking, what in the world is this guy? But I didn't say that for him. I said it for me. And I'll candor.
Got
just
it.
To keep me centered.
Absolutely.
Who I am, right? Yeah.
Set the intention, right?
First.
Yep.
I said, not sure if you're aware, but when you were backing out the corner of your truck, it's 6 or 8 slats on my cedar shadow box fence and knocked them down. And I walked around to say, to speak about it, and you were gone. As you can imagine, I'm a little frustrated. And Bob, if I'm going to be true to my calling, I want this conversation to be a productive one. because I understand that no future customers that you ever have as an AC repairman feel the way I feel right now, because if you do, you will not flourish in this role.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that you do. And he's like, Mr. Jackson, I thought I might have hit something. And in that moment, I was really kind of grateful. At least he's kind of owning it.
Kind of.
And he goes, I'm so sorry. I'll turn around. I'll come back. I'll fix it. I'm so sorry. And I said, no, this has nothing to do with the fence. This has everything to do with you. And I said, may you be encouraged, Bob, though, if by chance this ever happens again, to stop, get out of the truck, come ring the doorbell. Even if it costs you your job, I believe that would be the right thing to do. And no future customers that you would ever have in this scenario would feel the way I feel right now, because the way I feel right now is disrespected. You don't respect my property. And he goes, and then again, he doubles down on the apology. I'm so sorry. I'm turning around right now. I said, don't you do it, because I've got slats. I got a drill. I got some screws. I can have it fixed in a half an hour. This call's about you.
Mm.
Because I want to be a part of you flourishing in a way that you never flourished before. Here's a unique opportunity to do it. It got quiet. And I thought he hung up. And I'm like, Bob, are you still there? And he goes, yeah. Then you could tell his voice was cracking.
Mm.
I'm like, you okay? Is everything okay? What's up? And through that cracking voice, this is what he said. Nobody's ever talked to me that way before. I am so sorry. And I'm like, received, but we have a great opportunity here, Bob, for you to be better. And I want to be a part of that. We wrapped up the conversation. I set the phone down. I look over at my wife sitting next to me in the car, and she's crying.
Hmm.
I'm like, what's the matter, babe? And I'm going to share this humbly. Thanks for being an example. No matter what the circumstances in our life, we still get to powerfully choose how we respond. And the example that you said in that moment of responding in a way that was true to your purpose moved me. And thank you for the reminder that no matter what the circumstances, we can still choose to be in integrity with our calling, our purpose in life, no matter what the circumstances. Just a little life moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, he'll never forget that conversation. I'm like, that I don't know. But here's what I do know. I stay true to my calling. Not always easy.
Damn right, it's not easy.
But we forget that we have the choice to do that. But the work is confidently knowing who we are in that moment, no matter what the circumstances. And we're empowered. I wasn't going to become victim of circumstances that I didn't cause. What I am going to own is how I respond to those circumstances. And having that statement woven deeply into my heart and stamped right on my head, and in my commitment to go, I'm going to be true to this. I believe Bob, in one way, shape, or form, flourished in a way that maybe he had a new understanding about himself, maybe he had a new understanding about humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've shared this over the years, and people goes, well, what if he told you to go jump off a cliff? I didn't do that. I'm like, fine, that he would have had that choice, but then I would have called his boss, because I think he was afraid I was going to call his boss. I'm like, I'm not calling your boss. This is between you and I, Bob.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that we can address this on our own. But I'd like to think in that moment, I chose to play a bigger game with him. And the work, once that's pinpointed in my life, the work is beginning to kind of rewire my I call it the purposeful pause, right? You guys have heard me share that before, or minding the gap, right? Life came at us in that moment. I had a choice. I could be angry. I could snap his neck. I could get him fired. I could do whatever, or I could be true to who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And what am I, is the impact that my role in his life in this moment, is the impact going to be that he's going to flourish or not? I get to choose.
Mm.
I choose to be in integrity with my commitment to myself about responding, because in that moment, I initially want my initial reaction, instinctually, was to snap his neck.
Mm-hmm.
And then I minded the gap. Remember who you are. Circumstances don't define us. What defines us is how we respond. And I loved that space of mindfully responding in a way that's true to my calling. That's the power of this discovery for me.
Mm-hmm.
And to see people begin to understand that for the very first time is one of the most fulfilling things I could ever be a part of. It was a little long there. I'm sorry, guys, but that's how it shows up in real life,
That's it.
Right. Well,
thanks for sharing that, man.
And what I love about that, really, JJ, is it perfectly illustrates where we started with this, which is that there is a lot of belief out there that purpose is what you do. And if purpose is what you do, then that whole story that you just shared with us right there wouldn't have been something you would have had access to. And then the other thing is, that your purpose changes over time. Well, if that were true, also that story that you just shared with us right there wouldn't have been possible. And the many others, but this is a place to live from, right? And it doesn't change, and you get to stand strong in the eye of any storm, and choose who you're called to be through that purpose statement. That's what that gives you access to. And I feel like that story was just a perfect illustration of both of those two things.
I use this metaphor. It's like, and you guys have heard me share this before. It's like our life is a hurricane, right? Think about it. No matter who you are, no matter where you are, there's a lot of stuff going on. I have it in my life. Chances are anyone listening to this has it in their life, right? There's just chaos going all around them, right? Yeah. If I'm going to be in a hurricane, you know where I want to be standing? In the eye, right? Where it's calm.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe a silly metaphor, if you will, but it's like, no. It gives me the space to breathe, to remember who I am, and remember that I'm empowered to choose how I respond to any situation in life. And since this discovery over 10 years ago, I wasn't proud of this, of how I've been programmed to react to certain situations. And culture has kind of pushed me and justified certain reactions in life that I have this newfound discovery. Wait a second, that's not integrity. That reaction is not the right reaction. Mm-hmm. Culture may say it's your buddies may say, oh, JJ, you have every right to find that guy and snap his neck. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You have every right in the world to get that guy fired. Do I really? No, I don't. In my commitment of being true to my purpose and my calling in life, because I want the verb part of that statement to be seen. Identifying it as one thing, living it as another.
Yes.
Yeah. And I feel like that's actually a really perfect place for us to start shifting into just how do we make it more tangible? So with everything that we've just talked about, it's a perfect shining example of the power of what you can do with purpose. But what is it that can bring purpose into people's lives in an intentional and tangible way? Like, how do we begin to do that? And like we've said before, this is your life's work. So in everything that you have researched around purpose, maybe share with us a little bit about how you began to do this, to bring it into an intentional and tangible way, something for you to have access to?
Yeah, no. In my years of study, I've been exposed to various perspectives, probably is the best way to articulate this, on ways of identifying what our purpose is or what our why is in life. And to spare you a lot of history, what's been revealed to me, I happen to believe, Tiffany, that in my over 10 years of experience of working with people and helping them pinpoint their unique purpose in life, I've made it something revealed itself. And I'm an example of this as well. I was so close. I believe most of us, Tiffany, are so close to our purpose in life, we can't see it. Right? And it's just woven so deeply into us. And it's woven within the limbic part of our being, right? And to actually put words to it, it can be a unique challenge, right? Allow me to explain just a little bit more.
Yeah.
By putting more, I believe our purpose in life is embedded and woven. Whether you believe it was formed or you believe you're born with it, quite honestly, that's a conversation I don't want to get into. That's a whole nother conversation because for me, it's actually irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Either you were born with it or was developed.
No.
It's there.
Because you're here either way, right? You're here either way.
I believe.
Yeah.
And I have people that don't bait me into that conversation, but that's not my passion. It's like either you believe you have a unique purpose in life or you don't. And if you do, let's talk about it. And if you don't, that's fine. And there's people out there who don't believe that they do have a unique purpose in life, and that's okay. That's their prerogative. But what I discovered is that most people are so close to it. And so if that's in our limbic being, you realize that our limbic being does not know language. That limbic, it's our feelings. It's where, it's like, I've shared the metaphor. It's like somebody says, I really can't explain. It's just the gut feeling, They know something's there, but they don't have the ability to put words to it. We've all felt that way at one point in time.
Totally.
Yes.
Well, what if you were able to actually put words to it? Well, this process of putting words to it and helping somebody do this is that we get to be as someone who, and I know that you all have the ability to assist others in doing this. And it's been an honor working alongside you all as we have refined this process.
Yeah.
But there are unique words and language that accurately articulates that essence within our limbic being that's spot on to pinpoint exactly what our purpose in life is. For example, let's use my statement, which is to serve others with love and respect so that they may flourish. Every word in that statement is vetted and carefully. I could share with you why every single word and what those words mean to me and what the essence of those words means to me limbically, can feel it.
And that is also the point, isn't it? It's about what these words mean to you
personally.
Yeah.
And you realize that hundreds of these that I've done over the years, no two statements have ever been the same.
Cool. Yeah.
No two statements have ever been the same. Because when you pinpoint what those words are, and you're in a position to help people put that thing about them into words, now that becomes the lens or the filter or the North Star, or, there's all kinds of words that we can put it for how I show up in service to the world, how I am uniquely designed to serve others in this world. Now we're going to come full circle. Service. Wait a second. Service. Yeah. We talked about the difference, just earlier in the conversation, we talked about the difference between fulfillment and success, right? A lot of people are out for success. How many successful people do you all know who aren't fulfilled, right? I think we all know one or two. maybe if you really stop and think about it. And I realized, I used to be a stand for people's success, but I figured out that's not sustainable. What if I'm a stand for their fulfillment? What if I'm a stand, I'd help them identify how they're uniquely qualified to serve others and identify, accurately articulate the impact of that service on another. And when I witness that, I'm fulfilled. And as I've had a chance to help people over the years do this, the success piece is taken care of in the wake. That's just a byproduct of it.
Yeah. And
then we get to live a more inspired and fulfilled life in knowing, because fulfillment only comes one way. This is the point I was wanting to make. Fulfillment only comes one way, in the service of another human being. Think about in your life, folks, when you are most fulfilled in life. Chances are, 100% chance, when you're most fulfilled in life, you are selflessly serving another human being.
Yeah, just listening to you share all of that, JJ. I mean, these are things that I've heard before, but I just, I get chills up my back, and because I know the power of this work personally. You helped me to uncover my purpose in life. And that is a moment that I will be eternally grateful for and will never forget. It has changed everything about who I'm being in my life and the direction that I'm taking. And given me this level of confidence to do that, because I feel like that the doubt has been removed for me in some way. And I also really feel like receiving that just unlocked something in me. Because you were talking before about it being this, the feeling, right? This feeling. And I will say this over and over and over again on this podcast. I've had the feeling that there was more for me in life for a very, very long time. And it was like maddening, sickening, to just feel that something was not right in my life all the time. And I do not feel that anymore. That feeling of there's more for you, Tiffany, there's more for you. There's got to be more for you. I just don't experience it like that anymore. There's a peace that I have in my life around that. So, that is why Pinpoint Your Purpose is a huge part of what we do in the Polaris game. It has been something that we've incorporated into that, and why Andy and I both became facilitators in the process, because we know the impact that has had on our lives, and also now, in being facilitators, how fulfilling it is to help somebody else uncover that for themselves. Because
you have to share your purpose.
My purpose in life is to uplift and give others permission to believe in themselves, so they are inspired to confidently dance and sing in the light of knowing they can choose to follow their heart's calling.
Oh, beautiful. I love hearing that. Thank you for sharing that with me again. That's beautiful. Anthony, you have to share yours as well, brother.
My purpose is to kindly and respectfully give others the perspective and confidence to create a life they love, so that they have the opportunity to live fulfilled in making a worthwhile difference.
Wonderfully done. Now, let's take that statement to Bob the AC Man. Each one of those statements, you would have been challenged. You had that moment, life came at you. Think about how your response to Bob, and if let's assume that you had your statement. All of a sudden, your response is transformed.
Yep.
Absolutely. And I think when you actually enter into the living of it, this is when we start to develop a relationship with purpose, isn't it? And I think that is a key part of living into the alignment of your purpose. And as Tiffany's expressing, removing that feeling of more, that there's something more for you somewhere. It's like entering into a world that is fulfilling because you're living a life aligned with who you are at your natural best, right? And like, I can just hear, for instance, in your, say you take in my purpose, for example, to the Bob the AC Man situation, right? If that was me, one of the key elements that comes in there, because I've been in similar situations in my life where I've felt like absolutely losing it, and I've mindfully paused and just checked in. And the part of my statement that I'm checking in with, if I'm really triggered in an angry way with a situation, is the kindly and respectfully bit. That always brings me back to center. Now, for me, kindness is something I really, really value. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to be a walkover in that situation, but it means that I'm going to be bringing kindness in my understanding to myself first, about understanding that I am angry and that needs to be acknowledged, so that I don't need to blurt it all over the situation. I don't need to vent that on somebody else. And then, of course, for me, respect means honoring what's there. Respect means to honor what's right there in front of me. To me, that's what it means. And you know, what's there right in front of me is effectively, there's an opportunity there. There's an opportunity there to share a more enlightening perspective with somebody that creates possibility, not just for me, but for them. Because in creating possibility, everyone wins, right? So, you know, and I believe that living in alignment with our purpose does create possibility. Now, I'd like to speak into a little bit what you were saying about the living into it, what it takes to live into the purpose. Because like we were saying, it's the relationship with purpose that really allows us to live it, right? Because that's where the rubber hits the road. Because we've got these, our purpose statement gets delivered to us in that process. And that's an amazing moment. But, you know, those words don't mean anything, right? Unless we choose to live into that. They're just words until we live them, right?
Well, for your listeners and you, because you both already know this about me. For a long time, let's look at the word purpose, right? Noun and a verb, right? Okay, identifying it is one thing. Living it is another. Noun and a verb.
Yeah.
And my stand is, I don't, and this is where you both inspire me on a day-to-day basis. Why even do this? Why even take this on if you're not committed to transforming your life to a more fulfilling life, no matter what the circumstances? I know that idea may sound a little crazy, but it's not. It's not really not complicated at all.
Nah.
And as soon as those words and that statement is revealed, it's imperative upon us. I want this to be something more than just an academic exercise, right? I don't want to be a part of anything unless it transforms my life in such a way that fulfills the vision that I have. And how many of us guys have always, you know, you go to an event or you do a thing or you take a course, you're like, hey, that was pretty cool. I loved it and everything. And then you put that textbook right back on the shelf, and you'll see it every now and then. And you go, oh yeah, that was cool. That's frustrating.
Yeah.
Because the next part is like going, okay, and we call it the settling in period, don't we, guys? Right? All right, we've identified this thing, and I remember with both of you when we sat there in front of your completed statement, and I'm like, okay, I want you to begin to take a few days and let this settle in. I want you to print it off. I want you to put a screensaver on your phone. And I want you to just really look at that statement. And I want you to begin to have a relationship with that statement. And begin to transform yourself into somebody who's not reacting to circumstances in life, but mindfully responding to them through that filter. And that takes time, because what I discovered, I was in early 40s. I don't even know the number, but I realized, oh my goodness, I've been reacting by default for most of my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now that I know this, I'm going to begin to transform how I respond to life. Now that I know the truth about who I really am and who I'm called to be for others, I'm going to have a relationship with this statement. And you all know me. And how many times do I not, I share my statement, not so much for other people to hear it, but for me to hear it again and for me to be reminded, okay, get back to the eye of the hurricane. Right. Remember who you are. It's like a Bob D.C. minimum. Okay. Took me 9 minutes to kind of get out of that. Why? Because we're wired.
Cool. Yeah.
I have been for decades. I was wired to react a certain way to a certain set of circumstances.
We get railroaded by the emotion, don't we?
We do. Emotions are part of being a human being. That's okay. But in my response, is that going to reflect that? And the closer the relationship that we have with that statement, we are now empowered to respond in such a way. It's risky. But if I'm going to risk my life, I'm going to risk it being true to who I know I'm called to be.
Sure.
Bob didn't have to respond that way. But I think Bob saw in me, wow, this guy could have really made my life miserable. But I have a feeling when he laid his head down at night and he was thinking about his day, I'm hopeful that was a conversation he reflected upon and said, man, I'm going to be able to flourish. And that's my language. I'm going to be able to flourish now. I could have got the guy fired.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
But is that putting him in a position to flourish? No. So what would cause me to mindfully respond in a way that was true to my calling? My relationship with my purpose and in that commitment. I don't know if it's so much relationship with an Andy or if it's a commitment to be in integrity with that. My vision, and I do have a vision. I envision a world where we've all not only pinpointed our unique purpose in life, but we're inspired to live in integrity with our individual calling so that together, we can live a fulfilled life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at the world right now, for crying out loud. Do you not think the world is deserving of this newfound way of responding to life?
Too right it is.
Yeah, people with different religious, political, holy cow, we're so divided. I think together is better.
Yeah, definitely. Together we stand, divided we fall, right?
So, but let's do it in a way that, and by the way, just be reminded, let's come back to the ground zero here. We each have something unique and special. I believe we each have something unique and we each have a gift. We have a unique contribution that we are uniquely designed.
Yes.
But that's not for us. It's for us.
With that, sorry, JJ there. Yeah. With that, I'm wondering if you could just break down the purpose statement for us.
Yeah, no, great, Chris. Two parts of the statement. The first part, like my purpose in life is to serve others with love and respect so that they may flourish. Two parts. First part identifies the unique gifts that I believe we each have, right? Put words to it. Serve others with love and respect so that they may flourish. I'll give you a little insight. Since y'all are listening to this podcast, we're going to give you a little bonus here. Servant's heart, love and respect. I know that's my gift. I'm not going to go into the stories of my life that begin to explain why, but please trust me. Hopefully I've earned that. I've seen people look at their statements. We get to the point where we deliver the statement. I know you all have too. And you're like going, wow, I hope to be that person someday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Guess what? I say it too.
Yeah.
But I can choose to be that person today. I can choose to be that person with Bob.
Right now.
Now, where did that come from? That came from my commitment and my relationship with that statement, because it's really a commitment to me. Because on the other side of that, for me, is fulfillment. Right? And so the first part identifies the unique gift, the unique contribution that I believe we each have. And those words are discovered during the discovery process, and they're unique for everybody. Some people may have other people may have the same words that you have, but the essence of those words are unique to you,
Yeah.
and how that manifests and what that looks like. Tiffany, would you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Would you please ask me what I need the most?
What do you need the most, JJ?
I need to be served. I need love. And I need respect. The things that we need in life, folks, are the things that we are uniquely designed to give the most of. So how am I going to get those things that I need the most? I give them away. I give them away just like I gave them to Bob. Does it make logical sense? For me, it makes complete logical sense now, but the world wouldn't say the same. So if my purpose in life is to serve others with love and respect, what's going to happen on the other side of that segment so that they may flourish? This statement is designed to accurately articulate what our unique gifts are, what our contribution is. And in the discovery process itself, a lot of this would come to light if you're so inspired to do it. But on the backside is this, the impact.
The impact.
The impact. I'm one of those people on this earth. It's like, I want back to the kids. I love my kids. My kids are not my purpose in life, and nobody loves their children any more than I do. But the impact I love them so much. I want to do everything I can to create a world where I believe I'm called to leave this world in a better place than when I got here for them. And I now have the recipe to ensure that I'm doing everything I can to make that happen. Is it a unicorns and rainbows and a rosy journey along the way? No, it's tough. But life can be challenging. Why not show up in a way where no matter how much of a hurricane is going on around us, I can still stand in the eye and know who I am. Think about the impact of that on a domino effect, the butterfly effect over time. And I've seen it over the years. There's no way I could ever articulate it, but the ripple effect of this way of being, it's very much about key in leadership as well. It's like now we're in leaders are influencers, right? And we now know, we have the recipe to know the influence that we're uniquely designed to have on another human being for good. So I weave this into a lot of leadership conversations that I have with organizations and business owners. And, leadership development courses are a dime a dozen, if you will, right? But do they really get to the heart of the matter, right? The heart of the matter is really who we are. Think about the leaders in your life who have had the biggest impact on your life. Well, the chances are they accepted you for who they are. They were a stand for something even better for you and an encourager along the way for you to fulfill that way of being. And I now know the unique way that I know yours, Tiffany and Anthony, about how you are uniquely designed to influence others for good. Because when you have a leader in a role that is clear on that and is in integrity with that way of being, oh, guacamole, now all of a sudden there's a dynamic where there's flourishing going on. That's never happened before. What's changed, what's transformed is who we're choosing to be in the middle of all these challenges that we have and circumstances that we have. It's not complicated. Don't overcomplicate it, because it's not. And this is where I've kind of taken a lead and shouting out to the world, wait a second, it doesn't have to be this complicated. It's not some mist, it's not some fog. It's not something that blows in and out depending on the emotions or circumstances or no matter what those are, I know who I am and I know who I'm called to be. And I have a recipe on how to respond and what specifically to do in that moment. We get so wrapped up in our culture right now about what to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had this conversation with each of you personally and collectively. We've had it before. How many of us in this world are going, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I believe that we're asking the wrong question. And the question we should be asking is, who am I called to be? And then when you take care of that, the hows and the whats take care of themselves. That's what experience has shown me. Does that make sense, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It makes total sense. And I feel like you just beautifully wrapped up this whole podcast. So before we do officially wrap up, I'm wondering, Andy, if there's anything that you want to add here.
What I was hearing something when JJ was talking about impact. And, like our purpose statement describes our gift and also what we need the most. And it also describes the impact that gift has on another human being or others in when we're serving in that way. But what was occurring to me as well is that we're not dependent on that gift being received. That impact, it's an opportunity for that person to receive that impact. Because if we were dependent on that gift being received, all of a sudden now we're dependent on our circumstances. Now we need other people to be a certain way so that we can be okay. But our purpose allows us to live freely, liberated from the need for the world or others to be a certain way, because we know who we're called to be, irrespective of the circumstances. And one of those circumstances is if our purpose is received well by others. And that's absolutely okay if it's not. The point is there's an opportunity there for that to be received,
Yeah.
And I know you're wrapping this up. Thank you for saying that. Because let's assume we'll go back to the Bob thing. Bob didn't have to respond favorably to my way of being in that moment, right? And let's assume that he didn't.
Right.
I would have gone, okay. And then I would have called his boss out of respect for his boss. Because as a business owner,
right.
As a business owner, I'm like, hey, look, I own a business myself, and I believe there's something you need to be aware of, because if the tables were turned, I would want to know this about my business.
Mm-hmm.
Your business isn't going to flourish because I just had this experience with Bob, one of your hands, and I'm still true to my purpose. And I'm going, and I don't mean this to make it about that story, but it's like, I'm confident that I was true to my calling in that moment. And let's assume that he tells me to go jump off a cliff. That's fine. But I would still feel responsible to a fellow business owner to let him know these are experiences that your customers are having as a result of this. And here's an example. And I think I'm serving that business by being true to that. So great distinction. If our fulfillment is going to be determined by somebody else's response to us being true to ourselves, you have to hit reset on that. It's about being true to who you know you're called to be. Are we going to be perfect at this? No, but it's sure a fun and fulfilling process to embrace. So thank you guys so much for allowing me to be here.
Well, yes. And I have some last words too. So, I was really, when you were breaking down the purpose statement and speaking about our unique gifts in the first part of the statement, one thing that has made the most difference to me, I think, is that in receiving that and in beginning to develop a relationship with my purpose, I really realized that I was looking for other people to give me what I needed the most. I was looking to get what I needed the most from other people. And what I realized is that I needed to give it to myself. And that unlocked a whole lot for me in being able to move forward into the fulfilling life that I have now and to find peace around this feeling that there's more for me. So that was just a huge thing that struck me. And then I would like to give you, JJ, just a minute for last words, and then we will wrap up.
Me and a minute and last word, that's going to be tough. I will just come from gratitude of thank you for, this is a conversation that we rarely had in the world, isn't it, Andy? I mean, it's like, and if this concept if this has triggered some level of curiosity, explore. And I know that you two are available there. Matter of fact, what I'd like to do is create the possibility, if your listeners want to take this another way or understand something, I would be honored to come back, and it may not be in this forum, but another forum. But that's how I'm called to lead, because I have a vision to fulfill.
That's wonderful. That's perfect, actually, JJ. I really appreciate that offer, because we'd like to invite you to the Guardians Lounge, which is a space inside of our Facebook, our podcast Facebook community, whereby we continue this conversation. And again, it's just more of this conversation, allowing us to unfold a little bit further, to go a little bit deeper, and also to give people within that group the opportunity to join in that conversation. If there's anybody in that group that wants to actually come on the call with us and enter into a conversation with us and JJ, then the opportunity for that is there within that group. So also, just to say, you mentioned about, if people are curious, if this has raised any level of interest, people are curious. I'd like to stress that if you want to know more about JJ's work with Pinpoint Your Purpose, you can find the link for pinpointyourpurpose.com to find out more about that in the show notes of this podcast. And as I say, we'll be continuing this conversation with JJ if that invitation remains open for you. Thanks, JJ. In the Guardians Lounge, and that is exclusive to our members of the Following the Calling podcast community on Facebook, and where we regularly have people join in the conversation with us. So with that, I just want to thank you, JJ, for again, from the bottom of my heart, for being who you are to me and Tiffany, who you are to many other people that we know, and for also taking the time, your valuable time to come here and share this conversation with us, because I know that it means a lot to you to be sharing this conversation. And I know that this isn't you doing us a favor. This is you being who you are. And I want to thank you for that, because it's having someone like you around is truly valuable in our lives. That's a two-way street, my friends. Thank you again. And you took the words right out. This isn't what I do. This is who I am. And I love you guys. Thank you for your stand with what you're doing. I'm all in, and I endorse you fully. Not because of what you're doing, because I know who you are and your commitment to being true to that. I love you guys. Thank you.
I love you too, JJ. Thank you.
And just to say, the link for the Facebook podcast community you will also find in the show notes. So until next time, on the next episode of Follow the Calling, we'll see everyone later. Thanks, JJ.
Bye.
Thanks, Tiff. Bye.
Thank you for showing up for yourself and exploring this space with us. We are a stand for you to follow your calling, whatever that might be.
Be sure to subscribe, and if you're interested in playing with the concepts we share on this podcast and you'd like to continue this conversation with us, we invite you to join us in the Follow the Calling podcast community on Facebook, and you can find the link for that in the show notes.